In various parts of the country, there is a rise in price of some of the best commodities, so that even people point that it has greatly impacted their livelihood in the recent past. Insurance fees have increased almost threefold. Previously, we paid insurance at 65,000 Rwandan francs, but it later increased to around 130,000 Rwandan francs, and it has increased further to 155,000 Rwandan francs. A kilogram of Tanzanian rice bought 1,000 Rwandan francs previously, but it has now increased to 1,200 Rwandan francs. 3 kilograms of cooking oil bought at 6,000 Rwandan francs, but that has now increased to about 7,000 Rwandan francs. Same for sugar, the price has increased. A kilogram of sugar previously bought about 1,000 Rwandan francs, but it is now at 1,200 Rwandan francs. In this regard, the governor of the Central Bank of Rwanda, John Rwangombwa, explains that this is also the case in the global arena, which is why steps have been taken to increase the interest rate on the central bank's lending to commercial banks and microfinance institutions. He explains how it will help to cope with the rise in prices on the market and to keep the financial sector stable. At the moment, the COVID-19 pandemic is on the wane. Your economy is almost as nothing, because purchasing power goes very down regardless of the amount of money one has. So the decision to revise the repo rate upwards is one way to contain inflation, such that it doesn't affect the economy in general and affect the purchasing power of the low-income earners. Governor John Rwangombwa emphasizes that revising key repo rate upwards will not affect banks and small financial institutions. After all, commercial banks do not give loans from the money they lend from the central bank, but rather they borrow money they get from their clients. Another thing, even though we have revised repo rate to 5%, but that is accommodative monetary policy, which can facilitate commercial banks to continue giving loans. But rather, it is one way to contain inflation, with a view to allow commercial banks to give loans to their clients. This is also the view of some of the leaders of commercial banks in Rwanda, as the reduction of COVID-19 pandemic has led to the increase in their lending, and borrowers are starting to repay so well that they have no problem in increasing the central bank's repo rate.
Obviously, the last 2 years have been very difficult for the financial sector, because in the absence of economic activity or business being done, then certainly the loans don't get repaid. We had a large number of customers in the sectors that were affected that had to be given accommodations in form of either moratoriums, those that had to benefit from economic recovery fund, had breakages in interest rates, and some had even to decide to sell whatever they had to liquidate all their loans completely. A large chunk of our customers, and I presume that's what it is with other banks, were given accommodations. Some of the customers, having realized that we are in this pandemic effects for a long while, but when the measures were eased a bit, the education sector has bounced back and the schools are paying. So some of those sectors, customers in those sectors have started paying their obligations, and we believe what we see in this year, 2022, with all the accommodations that are happening around the world, most economies opening up other than China, I guess, the rest of the world opening up, travel starting to come back again, and people also thinking that, you know what, we need to live with this. We expect that to result into investments and doing business. We expect it to drive optimism. We are hearing this year, CHOGM is confirmed in June. That is driving a lot of optimism.
However, the Central Bank of Rwanda has identified the issue of borrowers whose operations have not rescinded during post-COVID-19 period. According to the statistics from the Central Bank, financial sector's assets grew by 19.5% to 7,569 billion Rwandan francs in December 2021, compared to the growth of 20.2% in December 2022. In the banking sector, there was a 15.4% increase in new approved loans of about 1,230 billion Rwandan francs compared to their decline of 8.2% in 2020. While insurance companies accounted for 21.6% of insurance contributions, up from 10.4% in 2020. As of December 2021, 88.9% of loans had been postponed or revised, and the repayment agreement had been repaid normally, so that the rate of unsecured loans remained below 4.6% in 2021. Reporting for RwandaTV News, Athan Tashobya.